All right, everyone. Hi, my name is Stephanie Arne, and I am so excited to join Earth Live Lessons on Lizzie Daly's YouTube channel. This is so cool. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. We have about 20 minutes, and I'm going to share an amazing story about African penguins, a journey I just recently went on in South Africa. Again, my name is Stephanie Arne. I'm a wildlife conservationist. I have been working all over the world for over 15 years on many different conservation projects. And in the last 7 years, I have been focusing my work on sharing stories about these conservation projects on TV, on news channels, on podcasts, on YouTube. But you may be most familiar with me on the show Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. And I'm also a wildlife ambassador for curiositystream.com. All right. So again, this is an Earth Live lesson. Thanks again, Lizzie Daly, for setting these up. And hello to all of you all over the world that are enjoying these lessons. Okay, so we're going to get started talking about African penguins. Okay, so since I can't do screen shares on this, I thought I would do something kind of fun, and hopefully it works. Okay, I am going to try to show you a quick video from a different computer, and we're just going to hope that it looks okay for y'all. Okay, let's see here. And this idea of what the last film that I just worked on about penguins, and then we'll dive a little bit deeper. Okay, so last year, actually, the fall of 2018, I went to a zoological conference and I got to meet Kevin Graham. Kevin Graham works with penguins at the Dallas Zoo. So brilliant and very passionate about saving birds. He told me a story about how African penguins off the coast of South Africa and really off of just the coast of all of Southern Africa are really struggling. And I knew there was African penguins and was really familiar with them. And I knew they were warm weather and they were black and white and they spent a lot of time up on the beach and it didn't look really cold like some of the cold weather penguins we're used to seeing in films. I knew a lot about them. What I didn't know is that they were critically endangered. So he told me a story about how he and his friends and colleagues from all over the world were trying to come up with a way to help these African penguins and try to save them from becoming extinct. And it's kind of stinks. So this is what happened. Over 100 years ago, people came to these islands off the coast of South Africa, and they saw that the African penguins were there. And what they were doing is every once in a while they would maybe take some eggs, right? Well, a lot of us eat chicken eggs, but people all around the world, they eat different eggs. And so sometimes penguin eggs worked out just fine. However, they found out that on the island, there was this really special resource that they could use to help grow food a little bit better. And it was actually the penguin poop that we call guano. It's strangely enough, it's highly nutritious. It's full of a lot of really important things that help soil be really healthy and helps food grow faster. So humans came down, they saw this guano, they found out that it was excellent fertilizer, and then they took it. And did they take a little or did they take a lot? They took a lot. In fact, over 50 years or more, people from all over the world came to this island and shoveled it and collected it. And then it kind of turned into this weird Guano War. They called it the Guano Wars because people from all over the world came there and they were trying to take as much as they could because it was such an important resource that it eventually became basically as valuable as gold or silver. And obviously, you can imagine if there's just gold laying on an island, people aren't just going to let it sit there, right? So people eventually started fighting over it, and they took all of it. Now, why is this a problem? You might be thinking, who cares? The penguins don't need that guano. They don't need their poo. Believe it or not, they do. You may have seen that cold weather penguins, there's a couple species that will put their egg, especially the emperor, on their feet, and they'll have a brood pouch go over it, and they'll keep that egg nice and warm. But if there's penguins that live in warmer climates, they have to find other ways to keep their penguins warm. And a lot of them will burrow in the dirt or the sand, and they will kind of make a burrow just like. And so African penguins do that. But because of the penguins that live on the islands, because it's really rocky and sandy and it's really like right at sea level, they couldn't dig into the dirt. So instead, believe it or not, they burrowed in their guano. That's right, they burrowed in their poo. Now you might be like, wait, hold on, how does that work? Well, if you have millions of penguins and other seabirds sharing an island and they're pooing every single day, eventually that guano, which kind of comes out a white color, eventually it starts to pile up and harden and pile up and harden and pile up and harden. And eventually it was over 5 meters high. So it used to be quite a tall island. But again, humans took it all. So now all that guano that used to be tall that they would burrow in to raise their eggs and their chicks is all gone. So if it's all gone, now these penguins are having to nest with a little bit of vegetation and rocks and sand at the surface of the island. Now, the reason why that's a problem is because, number one, there's a lot of crazy storms and a lot of rain and wind. There's not a lot of vegetation because of that to hide under, like trees and bushes. The other issue is sun. It gets really, really hot, and penguins have black feathers. So for them, it's like going out with a black coat on a hot summer day. So they start to overheat, and you can see them. They open up their mouth and they start panting and they're like overheating. And then the other issue is predators. Now they're exposed to predators like kelp gulls, which are a really, really big gull that are just waiting for that penguin to overheat and step off their egg so that they can come in and steal their egg, which of course is not what the penguin parents want to happen. So Kevin told me this whole story, and I was like, wait a second, what? So you're telling me that these African penguins are close to extinction because humans over 100 years ago stole all of their guano burrows, and they've been dying from heat stroke and from predation. And he's like, that's one huge issue. But of course, like a lot of other animals in the world, they're also struggling from plastic pollution. They're struggling from oil spills and from climate change. As their climate is shifting, or as our climate is shifting on the planet, it's changing currents in our ocean. It's changing the salinity level, the pH, and all these things are put together. It's very, very complex. It's put together, and as those things change and shift, it shifts everything in the ocean, even their food source. So now their food is moving away. It's swimming to different locations, or maybe it's deeper. And then on top of that, us humans, we love fish so much that we are taking their fish. And, it'd be cool if we shared it, right? Or if we gave the fish a chance to grow more fish. But the problem is, just like the guano issue, humans, we sometimes take way too much. And in this case, we took way too many fish too. So these African penguins struggled from their guano being taken, a lack of burrows. They struggle from climate change, plastic pollution, oil spills, and now overfishing. So this is a human-caused problem. And Kevin told me we have to do everything we can to fix this problem. So he asked my husband, Tim, and I to go to the island called Bird Island off of South Africa to see it in real life. I'm going to pause for a moment and I'm going to answer any questions that you have right away about African penguins. A question from Instagram. Are artificial nests used to help protect other species of penguins? Yes, they absolutely can be used to protect other species of penguins. And I will go in depth about the nests here in just a moment. Another question from Malia, age 9, from Instagram. Do penguins migrate? Okay, so penguins are a bird species, but they cannot fly up in the air. They are actually designed perfectly to almost fly underwater. They are what we call hydrodynamic, not aerodynamic. They're hydrodynamic, so like a torpedo in the water. And instead of wings that fly through the air, they're modified so that they can use them as flippers to swim really well. Okay, but they're still a bird, and they love fish, and they still lay eggs. And like I said, they do burrow and create a weird little nest in that burrow. And they do have to go out every single day to look for food. Now, in this particular, to answer your question, Malia, in this particular situation, these birds are not migrating. These particular African penguins live on these islands basically full time. And what they will do is that they'll go into the water for hours at a time and search for fish. And sometimes it's miles and miles away. Sometimes it's really, really deep to get that fish. Now, we've heard of some penguins leaving the island, and we don't know exactly where they're going unless we are tagging them or have some sort of a GPS attached to them. But we have seen that they can travel or possibly migrate to locations that have a better, healthier food source. But I personally don't know all the details yet about their migration or traveling. So we're still learning a lot about that as well. But like I said, this particular group of penguins I'm talking about on this island, they typically stay on the island. Okay. Next question from Emily D is, how do they breathe underwater? They actually don't breathe underwater. They hold their breath. So they can hold their breath for a really, really long time and dive very deep, very quickly. And then, of course, rise to the surface to take a deep breath. And sometimes they can shoot some salt out of their nose too. I've seen them do that, and they shake it out. Okay, so we got to the island and we got to see all of the penguins spread out throughout the island. And it's breeding season when we arrived. So a lot of the penguins have matched up. Sometimes they can match up with the same partner as the past, but not always. So they'll match up together and they'll create their little dirt nest with some twigs. It's not super great looking. And then they'll lay an egg, sometimes 2. And they'll take turns sitting on that egg. And I did absolutely see them overheating. And it was super hard to see them. They have their head tilted up, their beaks are open, and they're panting. They're like, you can see they're hot. And what's mostly heartbreaking is when you see them overheat and they get off their nest, and then their instincts go, no, protect the egg. And then they go, oh, but I'm so hot, I want to cool off in the ocean. So they start to walk away. And they're like, no, I got to protect my egg. It's hard because they have to make that choice. Do they abandon their egg and risk their egg or chick getting eaten by a kelp gull? Or do they risk their own life by dying of heat stroke? So I can understand why Kevin Graham and other partners that are working on this project so badly wanted to create a nest. So they come up with this idea. Let's put nests out that will help protect them from heat in the sun, because that's the best, quickest thing that we can do right now. And other teams are addressing the oil issue and plastic pollution and climate change. So let's just focus on this. So what I love is that animal care specialists, people that work in nonprofits to help save penguins, the government, which is the South African National Park System, they all put their egos down and listened to each other and said, what can we do? How can we combine our skills and our talents and use science to create a nest? So they designed a couple different types of nests, and let me tell you, they all failed. They failed pretty bad. One was too small, one was too big, one had too many holes that got water in and made it too wet inside. They realized we need to do this better. So how do we really apply science to this? So they added this really cool mechanism and they put it in some of the last natural guano burrows left. And they measured the heat and humidity and airflow and everything inside of this natural guano burrow and said, okay, now that we have the data from that, let's design this nest, keeping in mind that we need to have this amount of humidity, this amount of airflow, this amount of heat. And again, they tried a couple of new designs and they failed. But did they quit? No, they didn't. They kept trying. And eventually they found the exact design of this nest. They now knew exactly what size, how many holes to put in. It's two different layers. They have one layer and then a second layer. And this is on the one on top has holes in it to allow airflow. It stops any water from getting into the main burrow, the main part of the nest where the chick is at. It is angled because of the wind. It has a very specific color of white that controls the amount of sun that is heat that's collected from the sun. It's just durable enough to hopefully live and survive for like 10 or 20 years, and it's affordable. And now we have locals in South Africa who are building 12 of these nests every single day because they work. So the team, we put them out and we dispersed them throughout the entire island. And penguins were so excited to see these that they were sprinting to the nest. And no joke, they take their flippers and they put them down and they were running on all fours, just like a cheetah, okay, to these nests. They're like, yes, protection. And they got into the nest and some of them were laying eggs within 24 hours of getting inside of their nest. So I want to show you a quick picture of what they look like, just in case it didn't show up or you couldn't see it very well in the picture. Let me see if I can find it. While I'm pulling this up, let me see if we have any other questions right now. Do any abandon their eggs? Absolutely, yes. Unfortunately, there are penguins that are probably even today abandoning their eggs and their chicks because they are way too hot. So yes, that is a really big problem. We also see penguins that die of heat stroke. Right on top of their babies. And then, of course, the other pair, let's say the father of the egg, will come back and unfortunately then really struggles because it has to take care of its egg by itself and get food. Especially if it's a chick, it has to get food for itself and the chick. So obviously you can imagine that that's very stressful and a really hard time. And I don't want to bum you out, but it is the reality. And that's why these nests are so incredibly important. We need to give these breeding pairs a fighting chance so that they can raise these chicks up and create more adult penguins so that we have more of them on the island and on the planet because they're very important. Okay, let me show you. Okay, I'm going to show you. So that's, sorry, it's really bright. But can you see what those nests look like? So it kind of reminds you of a weirdly shaped igloo. It is white. Those holes allow for that airflow that we were talking about. Again, that white coloration is perfect. It's the right color of white. Believe it or not, that matters. When trying to create a scientific experiment, every single little detail matters to make sure that it matches what Mother Nature has already created. So that's what the nests look like. And then I wanted to show you. Oh, here's the that failed. Okay, this one we have fiberglass. We have this is somewhat of like a ceramic type. This is similar to the current one we have now. However, the materials were too the materials weren't strong enough yet at that point. And let me see if I can find, this will let you, here's what the actual island looks like with all the penguins. Again, sorry, it's kind of bright. Okay, so I'm going to here pretty quickly because I want to answer any more questions, but look here and you can see, here's us putting out the nests. Here's where all the nests are. They're all facing the same direction because of the prevailing winds. And then you'll see that there's some penguins here that do not have nests on them. And I do have a lot of people ask me, why don't those penguins have nests yet? Well, this is the deal. They're already sitting on eggs. And because they're already sitting on eggs, they're extremely protective of their egg. And so we can't like shoo them off the egg and say, hey, I'm a stranger and I know you see me as a predator, but can you please move off your egg really quick? And then I'm going to put a nest over it and then you can go back in. Unfortunately, they don't speak our language, so we can't get them to move. And they can be very feisty, and that's good because they're trying to protect their egg and they don't know that we're trying to help them. We also cannot just take a nest and put it over their heads. So that would be very stressful for the penguin. So what happens is they just have to wait. They rear their chick. The chick goes off into the world. And for the next breeding season, there'll be a new empty nest waiting for them. And they'll be able to join all the other penguins that have nests. So our goal right now, we have about 1,000 nests on the island, and we'd like to have 2,020 nests in the year 2020, by the end of 2020. So 2020 nests in 2020. The ultimate goal would have 5,000, but we're working our way up there. Conservation sometimes takes baby steps, and eventually we will get there. And hopefully our goal is that we'll be able to produce more chicks. More chicks will be able to make it to adulthood. But then after that, we have to do the best we can to prevent oil spills. We have to do the best we can to make sure that there's enough fish in the ocean around their islands so that they can eat. It's extremely important. So if you want to learn more about this project, please go to savingpenguins.org, www.savingpenguins.org. The original clip that I showed you, that's a reel, like a trailer to a film that's 12 minutes long. So I recommend that when we're done here, you go to savingpenguins.org, which is in the comment section down there in the description. Click that link and you'll be able to watch the whole 12-minute film about this entire story, told probably better than what I did today, as well as information for you to learn more about how we built the nest and all the details of how they created the nest, the science that went into it. And you can also follow us on social media as well to see the new pictures. So go onto Facebook or Instagram and you can see the brand new pictures that just came out today of some baby chicks sticking their head out of the nest, and that's Save African Penguins on Facebook. I think the social links are down in the comment section as well. And then lastly, I just wanted to leave you with this thought. Science is important. It's a combination to make this happen, to save these animals. We need science. We need people that are studying science and going into these fields to learn more about how we can save these animals. Like me, I personally try to learn as much as I can about science and how we can talk to people and teach people science as well. Because if without that, we wouldn't have been able to create these nests to save these penguins. So it's incredibly important that we respect it. We respect the people that are going through the trial and error process because they're trying to find answers, failing forward, but they're not giving up. And we're not giving up either. We're going to do the best we can to save these species. So I'm going to take a couple more questions and then I'll jump off. All right. Are there any reintroduction projects happening to boost their population? Thank you, Alex. Reintroduction projects. Hopefully I'm understanding you correctly. There isn't a project right now where they're really taking penguins from other areas or the island, moving them around. That takes a lot of money and a lot of time to do that. The only reason why there would be a reintroduction would be if there was an abandoned chick and the rangers on the island were able to rescue the chick Here's stuffed animals, by the way, that you can purchase on savingpenguins.org, and that money will go towards the nest, or you can sponsor a nest. But they'll take the chick and they'll bring it to a place like Sand Cobb in Cape Town or Port Elizabeth, and they'll care for the chick, and then they will reintroduce it back onto the island again. Even though it doesn't have parents anymore, they'll still try to reintroduce it, and usually that's quite successful. But that's about the only reintroduction that I really expand on right now. Who makes the nest? From Steve. Great question. We have Dyer Island Conservation Trust. It's a nonprofit. And right now we have a woman called Trudy Milan who lives in Port Elizabeth, and her team of about maybe 15 gentlemen are building these nests every single day. Let me show you a quick picture. So here is an image of a few of the gentlemen that are working on these nests every single day. And again, they've been able to produce like over 20 in a day, but they've gotten it to a point now where they prefer to make 12 a day, mostly because of quality. They really want to make sure that they're making them very, very well so that they can live, so that the nest can survive 10, 20 years. Because trust me, the storms there are pretty intense. So there's a few of the gentlemen, but if you really want to see them, check out savingpenguins.org to watch the entire film, because you'll see a ton of footage of them and they love it. They came up to us a few times and were like, how do we make sure we can do this job forever? And we're like, no, we don't want you to do the job forever, because we want these penguins. We want all of them to get a nest, and then hopefully you can just make ones that, break apart. But at the same time, it was kind of beautiful because they were so, so excited to be a part of something so wonderful and help out an animal, a local animal in their country. Last question from John Wild. What's the famous beach where you can view the penguins? That's going to be in Cape Town, South Africa. And it's called Boulders Beach. And that's where you can see some of the penguins. And those penguins have a lot of space where they can nest, because there is a lot of piled up dirt and there's a lot of bushes and vegetation. The only problem those penguins have is that there's people right there. Nobody can just go out to Bird Island where we filmed this story. It's protected by the national park there, and you have to have a permit to go there. But on Boulders Beach, people can go anywhere, and there's houses right there. And so they mostly struggle with light pollution, plastic pollution, cars, and dogs, because dogs don't legally have to be on a leash or lead in Cape Town, as far as I'm aware, as of today. So dogs, there's a lot of predation from dogs. And so that's what they mostly struggle with in that location. You might, if you go to Boulders Beach, you might be able to catch a glimpse of some of the artificial nests that they're using in that national park in that area. And of course, like the original question I got in the beginning was, can these nests be used with other penguins? And yes, absolutely. The goal is get them all the nests out on all the islands to get all the breeding pairs. And then of course, it'd be great to be able to bring them onto the mainland for the penguins that need it, and off the coast of South Africa, maybe Namibia. But ideally, it would really rock to also get these nests out to other penguins, maybe Galapagos or Humboldt, other warmer weather penguins. So again, it just takes time. Science takes time, and we need to observe it, and we need to record it, take that information and improve and make it better so that we can, again, save this animal from extinction. So thank you all so much. I hope you really enjoyed this Earth Live lesson today. Lizzie Daly, you're phenomenal. Thank you so much for doing this. If you have any more questions, please feel free to put it in the comment section and I will answer it. Or you can go to social media, me at Stephanie Arne. Again, all the ways to connect with me are right down in the description. Thank you all so much, and have an amazing rest of your day. Bye.